Hi, everybody. It's Kira here from Toronto again. Welcome to my show. Today, I'm welcoming Rod Katzfey, a former colleague, amazing friend, a coach, and a leader. I invited Rod to share his leadership story. He is the guru of the payments and financial industry. He has intentionally switched careers and has held multiple positions to learn more about the business side of the companies he worked for. And I'm really hoping that our marketing community, and actually beyond that, will be able to see how we each day can know our organizations better and become more valuable resource and leaders for our organizations. Hey, Rod. So
Hey
nice
there,
to see you
Kara.
here. Hey,
Hey.
nice. So, can you tell me about your favorite destinations? Because I assume you have traveled a lot throughout your lifetime.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been on calls this week, and I was reminded that I've traveled 200 and 300,000 miles a year in an average year, which obviously 2020 is by no means average with everything that's going on. But obviously you and I had the opportunity to meet when I joined Cruterax in Israel and Malta, and also traveling to Montreal. So those are obviously great destinations that I've joined internationally, and then of course. I live in Atlanta today. This is my second time I've lived in this area, a very diverse area, and I love Phoenix. I love to travel to Phoenix because of the scenery and the weather. So, I don't really have one. I just have many, just like I have many good friends in this industry as well.
That's amazing and great to hear. I hope you'll be back to see more destinations next
I do
year or the
too.
year
I hope
after.
so.
Yeah, fingers crossed, really crossed. Then, Rod, can you tell me which positions you held throughout your career? Because I mentioned you intentionally changed those.
Yeah, it's funny. I go back to thinking about when I was in college. I was originally pursuing an accounting degree, and I was told by the accounting firms, go get in banking until you hit your intermediates, and then come back and talk to us as for internships and things. So, I got involved. I started as a teller in a bank, which brought a lot of experience and knowledge and things. I moved into new accounts. The bank paid for 80% of my school, so I was one of the fortunate
Wow.
ones back in the 90s that I didn't graduate with a lot of college debt. Went on to be a commercial lender in college. Once I got out of college, I got into the payments business by accident,
Mhm.
and started with a joint venture structure that the bank I was working for called Boatman's Bank, that's now today known as Bank of America, and First Data, who's now known today as Fiserv. I got involved in, as an account executive, a territory manager, a district manager, a regional manager, and then I was a VP of sales. I was GM for some different ones, which obviously brings you into operations, customer
Mhm.
service, sales, finance, risk management, all that. And then I got into the e-com space with a company called Payleap. Was the COO there, and then most recently, as mentioned, I was with Cruterax and what's now Nuvei today, either an SVP or an EVP. So lots of different positions, as you said, lots of different titles. I'm not a big fan of titles. But unfortunately, some people keep track of titles and determine if they want to talk to you or not. So there's functional titles, there's marketing titles, and then there's just me.
Mhm. Then just you, yeah. So how do you call yourself basically? And if you are not into titles, why the heck did you change so much?
I tell you, the big joke for me is always, I like leadership. I like being in the leadership position, having come from the streets, carrying the bag, as they call it, really being in the trenches. I love being in the trenches still today,
Mhm.
rolling up your sleeves, diving in, doing what you need to do. But I really enjoy being in leadership positions because of the strategy, the insight, the working across different or parts of the organization, helping to drive, in our case, when you and I worked together, the marketing, what was the marketing that we were doing, and then, from a sales and operations and things. But I always tell people I'm the janitor. And that's no disrespect to any janitors out there. It simply means that there are certain things that have to be done. And if somebody else is not willing to do them, or you can't find somebody else or delegate to somebody else to do them, then you yourself are responsible for doing those. So I have always been that type of individual that, understands what it is. I like to work in teams, meaning, working together and getting things done. But if not, I'll just do it myself, which, early in my career, doing it yourself, you always thought was the best thing. But what you learned over time is doing it yourself isn't the best thing, because it doesn't incorporate all the other people. It doesn't help people grow and learn. And that's one of the things that I also enjoy from a leadership position, is also helping to create that next generation, help people grow and become the leader that they want to be. Because so many times people don't have confidence in it. They don't have mentors. They don't have a lot of support. I've had great mentors, both from an education perspective. I still, my favorite teacher in high school was a business teacher. I still talk to her this day. I've gone back and spoken to classes, all the way into mentors within the payments industry that I still speak to today. And we can carry conversations. So, janitor is the title I prefer.
So I love that, because I was thinking for what next for me, and I found a nice HBR article which talks about the figure it out officer. That's the new job. I love that concept, and sounds like you're around the same, just from the leadership perspective. How do you find then those jobs, and how do you position yourself so that people hire you?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I was actually just on a call prior to this. Right now I'm looking for that next opportunity. I'm looking for that next position. I will tell you, one of the cool things that's happening right now, and it has done it before, when I left a previous company, Calm Data, after selling Payleap, you get in this discovery phase. You talk to a lot of companies, you learn a lot of things that they're doing or wanting to do and how they're going to do them. And I really position myself as that puzzle piece maker or matcher, by taking all those different pieces of the puzzle. But I think the key thing in speaking to companies to identify opportunity, first of all, network. You got to use your network. Use LinkedIn. Use LinkedIn all the time. Post thought leadership type ideas that will keep you relevant. Network in your specific industries that you're wanting to pursue. Now, here's the thing: if you're actively today, in an opportunity, not seeking, this is the key time to be building your network. This is the key time to be talking to people, adding folks, joining groups, whatever you want to call it. Because once you're in the boat that you need to, that's not the time to do it. You can do it, but you should have already been doing it. It should be something you're doing across your entire career. But for me, I haven't pigeonholed myself specifically in a specific vertical, meaning sales or business development or operations or marketing. What I've done in my career is I've taken on different positions in different organizations, each time leading to a new learning. We'll talk about CreditRx for a minute, since that's where we kind of started our friendship and became colleagues. So I had never done international. I had a lot of contacts in that space, obviously. So me joining that organization brought my network, brought my experience in the U.S. to them. What they brought to the table was the opportunity to teach and allow me to learn international for Europe, which is a highly regulated space as opposed to the US. So that was a match made, as they say in heaven, right? But that's the puzzle piece, right?
No, that's the puzzle.
Those are taking the different pieces of the puzzle, putting together. We brought on great partnerships and relationships through those on both sides of it. We were able to expand and to learn, and it benefited both sides. So that, to me, is my strategy. My strategy is to always identify opportunities where my background and experience can be beneficial to the organization. And sometimes a recruiter or somebody will say, well, what's the ideal position for you? Or what would, and you know what? honestly, I don't have an ideal position.
You say
And
that, literally say that.
I do. And the
That's
reason I
amazing.
say that, I just said that on this call before this as well. I have such a well-rounded background, or have designed it purposefully, that I want a company to be able to look at that and say, okay, we have the deficiencies here. We need to fix here. We need to scale here. We need to grow here. We need to do this. Now my background becomes the experience piece that they need. It's not me saying, oh, well, it's a CRO position, or it's a SVP of sales position, or it's a COO position, or it's one of those. So to me, that is what makes you the most valuable in your career, is when you can plug into so many different parts of an organization. Because Kira, here's the key. The more parts of the business that you understand or you have experience with, when you go to make decisions, or you go and sit at the table, as they call it, to plug in, let's say you're in a CRO position, you're talking about revenue, but to get to your goals and where your organization needs to be, that involves operations, that involves risk, that involves customer service, that involves marketing. Well, if you've held positions in those different areas of the business in previous experiences with other companies, you now are going to gain that respect from those other folks around the table. You're also going to have life lessons. And most of all, you're going to have an understanding of what it may take, not only to be in those positions, but how those other divisions will affect your decisioning or your thought process.
That's amazing. That resonates really, really well. Although I have been in marketing for my whole life, I felt that my proposition is, and my benefit is actually talking to people, all the different people, at least verbally understanding what they're doing and how that's connected to the whole organization picture.
Sure.
That's
we were trying to generate more business out of those individual branches across, multiple states and things like that. And what I found was that those folks have 100 plus different products that they have to represent in those branches. And if they don't know you, they will not represent your product or service. Why? Because if, Kara, you and I have the relationship, and you're my customer and you have a relationship with me, and I'm told, oh, well, here's this other product that you should refer to somebody, and I refer you to them, they don't follow up with you, they don't take care of you, not only is that a negative for that product, but now you're going to have a different opinion of me and our relationship that we had with our product. So what I learned, and that was very, very early on, because I came from there, and I physically knew that. So one of the things I taught our folks was get out there in front of stop in the 3 branches a day just to say hello, out of sight, out of mind if you're not there. But if you're there, and in some cases, hey, ask if they have an extra office that you could sit at for a couple of hours to catch up on paperwork, to do other things. Because guess what? If you're sitting there, people are going to draw to you. People are going to stop by and say, hey, I had this new client that started up today, or, something like that. But the key to what I personally believe in what you're asking the question, it's all about relationships. It's about developing relationships. So the most important thing that I've learned across my career is building relationships, developing those relationships across the enterprise. Anywhere you go, everybody is a potential opportunity or relationship. But don't put people in cans or boxes, and always trying to monetize those relationships. Because if you build the relationship, and if there's opportunity for monetization, as they call it, that'll come. But if you're genuine to people and you really care, then you take care of people, you invest in them, they're going to do the exact same thing back to you.
Yeah. And how do you do that online? Let's take a specific example. I'll take a marketing example because I hear that often, especially in this online environment. Even let's not take the example when you start a new job and you have the obvious advantage to go and get to know people. But let's say you have been working in your box for a while as a marketing person. How do you now in the online world start changing this boxed environment for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And what I would tell you is that think about the box. So the box used to be in an office, right?
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
used to be in an environment. And we were just joking about this before we got on here, about the water cooler.
Oh yeah.
Think about that box. So what has happened? That box has moved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the box moved from the office. Now it's moved online. I mean, look at this pretty little box that we're in right here that people are going to see on video of us. Um, but what hasn't changed is the other side is the people. And we were talking about, I sit on the Midwest Acquirers board, and the trade show and the conferences, people are begging to go back to those.
True.
They want
Oh
that
yeah.
personal touch. They want that personal, environment so that they can network and they can build. So what you have to do is think about what we're doing here in Zoom. So reach out to those folks. Reach across the different parts of the organization. Just because you're not face to face physically doesn't mean you can't be in Zoom. I mean, I had never used Skype before when I joined Credirax. I had an interview on Skype. I'm like, wow, this is cool. And
Uh-huh.
almost on a daily basis, I was sitting in the United States. Most of our team was either in Malta or Israel, and we were on calls, internal calls, every single day, multiple times per day, and that's how we conversed. And then, I would fly over and each quarter and things like that. But don't let the box, so to speak, be a limitation. Take advantage of it. You actually have an opportunity now, personally, to have more of those conversations if you think about it, because when you're in an office environment, people are, sometimes there's limited space, or you can't talk as loud because there's the different conversations, somebody might hear you. Well, when you're on a Zoom, you're on a Skype, you're on a whatever your platform is you want to use, guess what? Now you can have those one-to-one relationships. It's also a great time to reconnect with your folks in
Oh
your
yeah.
network. Find out what they're doing. Are they happy? What tricks are they using? Look at your customer base. If you're wanting to do some specific marketing around things, look at some of your customers that their sales are through the roof. Now, is it organically because of the COVID situation to where customers have moved online away from face to face, or did they just hit the marketing plan just perfect and now they're in growth mode of that? You can easily see customers in your company through data analytics and some of those things. Reach out to those folks, rather it be their marketing folks or their sales folks. Understand, build relationships with those folks. you know, we have lots and lots of time now. We have more than 40 hours. You can get at your computer in your pajamas at 6 a.m. in the morning. You can be in your pajamas until 1 or 2 at night. But the point is that you're only going to do as much as you want to or you're motivated to. Some people are relaxing during this time. They're taking it easy because the companies are fearful of holding down quotas or some of those. And then there's other companies, they're really out there and they're aggressive with it and stuff like that. So you got to self-motivate yourself sometimes, especially in a marketing area, because the other
Mm-hmm.
parts of your organization are dependent upon you of coming up with creative, unique ideas unlike any other time in the past.
Yeah, and that's amazing. I loved what you said. Don't look only into internal stakeholders, but go to external, learn from others, not specifically in your field, but those who succeed as companies. That's amazing. Taking
Yeah.
it on board. And then how much time do you usually dedicate to that networking? Because you have also work to do. Do you have any tips and tricks around that?
Yeah, what I will tell you is I personally believe networking is something that you do more than you do anything, especially from a sales, coming from a sales and business development background. I started in this industry after I left banking, knocking on doors. I was 100% commission. I went from a salary to 100% commission. So I was constantly looking for businesses. Now that's a little bit different than networking, but it's somewhat of the same if you think about building a pipeline. Because what happens, I always used my customers that I brought on board as my leveraging point or my referral to the next customer, or that experience into a referral of a specific industry. So thinking back then and to now, I look at it and I would say probably 90% of my time today, obviously I'm looking for that next opportunity, has a lot to do with networking and things like that. I would say when I'm gainfully, with an organization, at least 50% of that. And the reason why I say 50% to 90% is because I think you're always trying, I always say you're always selling, right? I don't like the word sales. I like the word education, because I feel that if you educate somebody on what you have available and what your offering is, then they can make an educated decision and they sell themselves. If you ever have to sell somebody something, you've done a terrible job because you haven't given them the education or the pieces of the puzzle. Again, there's that puzzle piece of being able to make that decision. So, think about, just go back to our days of Credirax. We're having conversations around pipelines. We're talking about customers. We're talking about business, development, even on the product roadmap of some of our very large enterprise clients that we were working on, trying to solve for solutions that they were looking for. So as we're doing that, we're also having a network beyond both internally as well as externally. Because while we've got those types of businesses that are still sitting there, we still need to network with other folks to be able to potentially bring solutions to us that maybe we didn't have, either in a third party, or we're looking for additional clients or customers or partners in other essence. But for your audience out there, I would tell them that networking is the key to everything. Because when you think about what I just said earlier, today you should be looking at ways to bring business, marketing, ideas, whatever, like, never before. How you're going to do that is by networking and speaking to other people's in your field, in your space. What are some ideas they're seeing? What is successful that they're seeing? And again, those become potential employers, potential employees,
potential customers, potential partners.
Customers. Yeah. Because the other thing to think about as well is if you're building an organization, you want to not only know your competition, but you also want to know who's up and coming that maybe not your stiff competition. So you find some good folks, then you go out there and have those conversations. You become friends, you become networking. So now maybe your position changes in the organization, you're looking, or vice versa, or you're expanding. Guess what? Now you have a network of that. So when you're hiring, when you're doing hiring and things, I'm a firm believer that people leave people don't leave companies. And people go and join organizations because of people and those relationships and partnerships that have happened in the past, or they have a friend that says, oh yeah, that great person to work for, Kira is absolutely amazing, you need to go work for her. Well, that's the best referral that you can ever get.
Yeah, so much agree with that. And then you said you are good in coining phrases. So you said not selling, educating.
Education.
And I remember last time we spoke, you said not vendor partner and not employee associate. Can you expand on those two?
Sure. So, so vendor partner is one that has always hit me in the side pretty hard, in the sense that when you call somebody a vendor, you're telling them that they're not important, they're not valuable. When they're a partner, when you tell them they're a partner, that's a whole different mindset. I go back to the joint venture that I did with ABN AMRO and MPC, and we had specific partners, as I called them, like American Express and Discover and Verifone and all those folks. And I always referred to them as partners. And we would do a partner fair. So we do our sales meeting every 6 months, and then we would do a partner fair. Well, on the other side of the house, MPC was more of an ISO agent focused area, and they always called them vendors. And what I would do is I would have, we would invite all of our partners to dinner to join us. And what they had told me was when they were treated as vendors, they would have to sit off to the side. They had no access to these sales folks. They had nothing. So they were just basically there writing a check so that they could sponsor this event, but they had no access. And that made absolutely no sense to me. And because I always said partner fair. And they went out of their way to come and tell me how much they appreciated that and how that made them feel. So they were always ready and willing to work with us, write us a check to sponsor, a hotel or meals or this or that, because they felt incorporated. They felt ingrained into the overall organization, as opposed to a vendor. So that was something I did early on. I've always done that ever since. I think sometimes the way we use words implies something more than just a word. And a lot of people never realize that. And the other one that you were talking, what was it? What was the other one you were asking about?
Very important one, not employee.
Yes, not employee, associate. Again, associate, think about what the word associate means. It means among us. Whereas an employee, to me, that's an individual. So if we refer to folks as associates, again, we're talking to them as part of being among us, as part of being part of a team. And because think about an organization. An organization is a one big team made up of multiple teams and smaller teams and smaller teams. So that's associate. Now, employee, we're all employees. Well, sure, we're all employees, but wouldn't you rather be associated to other people as opposed to just being an employee or a number? So I again, it's like I said, the word imply. I mean, it goes back to the whole educator versus sales. You walk into a business and you tell them oh, I don't like salespeople. Great. Well, I'm not a salesperson. I'm an educator. They
That's
remember
good.
that, right? Just like a partner remembers being a partner as opposed to being a vendor. An associate remembers being part of something as opposed to being one. So again, these are all little things, Kira, that I just do, and I've incorporated. I've trained people. I've taught them this, so I can always tell that when people have come from one of my teams, organizations, we're only as good as the team that we've put together and built, right? As a leader, some leaders let it go to their head and they think they did it. A true leader surrounds themselves with people who are stronger than they are in areas they're not. Everybody has a strength. Understand your strengths, understand your weaknesses, bring in additional folks to fill those weaknesses so that now everybody is strong together.
That's amazing. That's an ideal dream. Last question as we wrap up, because you worked so much in business development and expanding into new markets, what is one thing that you would love to change between how sales and marketing operate in the next year?
I think the biggest, and again, 2021 is going to be a different year as we come out of 2020 because of, of COVID and just the whole environment. I liken this back to, 08, 09 with the financial hardships that the United States suffered, 9/11. I think, and we actually talked about this a little bit. Marketing, salespeople are going to continue to educate out there. They're going to continue to be out there. The way customers want to buy is going to be different. They're going to feel comfortable with that non-face-to-face meeting, just natural.
They don't have choice.
Right. In the future, I'm sure we'll return to that because we have a very short memory in the world, not just the United States, but just in the world in general. So once things start returning. Today the first vaccine person got it in the US. But over the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to still have to work through that environment. So I think where sales and marketing have to work really close together is, how is that offering presented in a much more clean, robust way? It's, taking that 15 to 20 page deck and cutting it down to half, taking that onboarding experience that marketing does with with internal folks. How do we make that streamlined? How do we make that feel cleaner, and things like that? So I think the key message in that is all going to be, we've got to tighten it up a little bit, because customers' attention spans, especially like Zoom and all that, they're all been on them all the time. They're sick of them. They don't want to deal with it. They've got so many different pieces and parts of their business, to deal with. I mean, think about small business owners, medium-sized businesses, just the sheer amount of weight that is on their shoulders right now with all the new provisions and the protocols. Then we look at the enterprise businesses. The enterprise businesses, they've got more business now, 20, 30, 40%, just because of size. Supply chain is in their favor as opposed to small to medium-sized businesses right now. But my message, in marketing would really be, tighten it up, partner, and communicate. Work closely together, communicate. Again, it's an opportunity for partnerships across the enterprise between those two groups. I just wish you and I were still working together, because I know we could tighten it up.
We can, and conquer new markets, I bet.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, Kira, thank you, and happy holidays to you and your family as well.
Thank you.